So the Dragonfly was basically, a new category of vehicle for Star Citizen. We'd worked with small spaceships, one-seater, two-seater, multi-crew. The ships were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that was working for the universe. But now with 3.0 coming up, and us sort of going planet side, which we've just shown in the demos, Chris really was pushing for a personal vehicle, basically, essentially a space motorcycle, like a space hog. And so with that in mind, the Dragonfly is kind of like the perfect candidate, because its styling is a little bit, it's a little bit lowbrow, it's quite mechanical, especially, we've just been dealing with the Caterpillar. And so, we work with those requirements, and the design team, with their brief that they gave us, they want something small, something that can hover above land, something that also can fly in space, so you can just boot it out of the back of your freelancer. And so this was a lot of fun. So, this was a brand new, again, it was like carte blanche almost. And so this is always what us art guys want and what the concept guys want. And so you'll see today that, through the process, how we've developed it.
This ship was interesting to design first because it's small, it's allowed it to go everywhere on ground, on planets, and we can also go in space with it, so it has different functionality, contrary to some other ships that are bigger or different. So the Drake manufacturer is also interesting because of this kind of low-tech industrial look. So it was also a challenge to try to do something iconic, but with a not too design bike. So it was really interesting to do.
So the Dragonfly was challenging at times purely because there's so many kind of exposed components to it. That basically means that it becomes a lot more kind of expensive as an asset. With a lot of the bigger ships, you can hide components away, whereas with the Dragonfly, everything's exposed. So you have to model everything. There's no smoke and mirrors here.
Essentially, when I get given the model from the guys in the art team, my job is essentially to start breaking that down into the separate items, such as thrusters and all the general parts of the ship itself, such as the nose, the body, and beginning to break them to make them detachable and add damage effects and things like that. Overall, we begin just by doing like a real rough white box flyable state on it. So we'll just get the model flying before we start breaking it all up. In the Gamescom demo, we essentially showed off the kind of basic setup of the ground mode and also the space flight mode, where we were essentially showing it going off in space, landing inside the freelancer, going planet side, going out again, and being usable in its ground mode. We have a lot more to add to that, so we're doing further work on the ground mode flight system, just really tweaking it, making sure that it feels spot on when you're riding along the planet. In addition, we also need to set up the rear seat for a rear-facing passenger. So you will essentially have your buddy on the back just running along with you, and we are eventually going to implement them being able to hold a weapon. So while you're in any chase sequences or modes, you're essentially able to have your guy at the back shooting people off who are approaching from behind. And the final thing that we're looking to implement is a third mode that the Dragonfly has, which is a compact mode, where essentially the ship's nacelles retract, and it basically enables you to store it in its smallest possible state on any of your cargo ships.
I went with Harley-Davidson for the kickstart sound originally, which was heavily processed, obviously, to just get that kind of okay, it's a motorbike, but heavily processed. And then it was a matter of finding out essentially what made motorbikes different from cars or spaceships or airplanes. It's the sort of connectedness with the environment, right? You're sort of racing along really near the floor, so the ground rush, particles, rocks, anything like that, that's going to hurt if you hit it hard enough, and the wind rush and stuff. I really wanted to get all of that stuff in there for the Dragonfly, so it was in stark contrast with all the other ships and vehicles we have in the game. The planet-side stuff, the in-atmosphere flight, the sort of terrain traversal in wheeled vehicles and hover vehicles like the Dragonfly, I think provide a brilliant contrast between what we're used to, the sort of the space travel aspect, where you've got points of sound, very sharp contrasty points of sound, very clean in the void. And then on planet side, we've got this much more grounded. When there's an explosion, it's going to echo around in canyons. You feel closer to the ground. You feel much like footsteps, different surfaces, surface types and stuff. You're going to have to feel that through the vehicle, you know. And it just gives I think it's a case of the total is greater than the sum of the parts, really, because the space travel and the planet side stuff, and those two things contrasting with each other, I think, just sort of reinforce each other. So it's kind of picking what we can emphasise, like the ground effect stuff, like echoey stuff off canyons and mountains and things like that, to give you a sense of where you are. And the two things will provide a brilliant, much enhanced experience, I think, to just space flight, you know.
So I can honestly say the Shape Dragonfly has been my favourite ship to work on so far, just because of adding new things that we've never done before in there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing our backers get their hands on it and do all kinds of crazy stuff while on planets.